Hi, this is Mike at Balsamiq, and I'm going to be working on a jump to resource feature, something that'll let you jump to a wireframe by name, or possibly a symbol or another asset. So let's get started. I have this idea that jumping to a wireframe should probably be near here, where we have this navigator for going to previous wireframe or jumping to a wireframe here. I could put a find wireframe under view. So let me just flesh this out. So jumping back down here, we have this previous wireframe, next wireframe, go to wireframe section of the view menu. So this seems like the logical place to put a jump to wireframe. I really am a big fan of Alfred, this tool in the Mac where you just start typing and then you can jump to any of your files in your Mac. And I think this is the way I was envisioning it for my Balsamiq a long time ago, is some Alfred-like search input that pops up. I think if we had a keyboard shortcut here, not sure what it's going to be. I think I should put something in here. So Control plus, I don't know what it should be. I'm just going to do Y for now. I don't know what this shortcut should be. So I'm just going to start sketching on the side here. The idea is to have an input that will appear in the window. So if this is my if this is my window here, right? I'm going to move this back. This is the editor. Let's make it look like an editor a little bit. If we have the editor, and then I did find wireframe. Somewhere over your screen, you could have an input just to search for your wireframe by name, and then it would just do an auto completion. So I'm gonna just put a label in here. Alright, so you're gonna assume that you have a cursor. I'm putting this input in focus, and then we need some kind of tip here. So let's zoom in a little bit. We could use a little space. So I'm going to make this some little small text here. All right, so if you hit this shortcut, this little jump to wireframe UI might pop up, right? And then just gonna sketch it out here. So once you start typing, the user types to look up, and then in this scenario, we have started typing the word company page or something. So user started typing that, and then a list of matching wireframes would come up. Let's say company page. Let's say they typed company. I might make this better later, but so the idea would be that you would you would start to see your matches, and then eventually, let's move this stuff out of the way. We're going to put this in another wireframe. So eventually, you would select one and press enter. Select wireframe, and then let's say once they've started typing, so once that way you could just use your arrow keys to select the item, and then that'll jump you to the wireframe. So that's the idea here. Not sure if this is going to be something that people are going to agree is a good UI, but this is one UI. So let's just walk through this one real quick again. So the idea is if I'm in a wireframe, I go to View, Find Wireframe. A little dialog appears with an input to start typing a name of a wireframe. Start typing, and the matches appear. Let's just put a note here. So that's what I'm gonna start with. I'm not sure this is gonna be something that's incredibly easy to implement. I think this would be pretty unintrusive way to just jump to a wireframe. Just have something pop up. Whether we need close icons here. Just gonna drop these guys in here. We need a clear as well. Let's use close again. Alright, so I'm going to do like this. Oh, I should have used a search box here. I'm going to transform this to search box, make it a square. Note here. Okay, so just gonna replace this guy. All right, so I just replaced the box with an input that has a little search icon and a clear icon, a clear button. So let's walk through this one more time. So Find Wireframe opens a dialog. The input's in focus, and then the user needs to start typing to look up a wireframe by name. Matches are displayed below the search input. User can click on a title that matches, or can use the arrow keys, and then press return, and then this should navigate to the wireframe. Okay, so while I was wrapping up doing this wireframe, I wanted to separate out the jump to wireframe feature from the find feature, and made this a separate page so that it's a little bit easier to read. Label things differently, and then I started to think about how you open up this dialog here, this jump to wireframe dialog. And then as I was doing that, I started thinking, oh, maybe jump to wireframe would be a better label for the menu, and then a J might be a better key, but we already used J, Command J or Control J, to hide and show the navigator. And then we can't use it for the Chrome browser because J is reserved for viewing your downloads tab, and then also Command Alt J brings up the inspector JavaScript console. So with the keyboard shortcuts, it's nice to keep them around where your home position, where your fingers rest on the keyboard. So one thing that we don't use yet is Control or Command single quote, which is move your right pinky over one key. So I thought maybe that might be a good one to use if we can map it to that. So that would just be Control single quote. We'll see if it's available, and then that would open up the editor to the jump to wireframe dialog. So I'm going to change these real quick. Okay, so they should say jump to wireframe now. And then the other thing I was thinking of is that we have in the navigator, you have this this heading here that says wireframes, and then this is a drop down we have for viewing different versions, alternate versions. We could put an icon here to jump, to search for and jump. So the idea would be, let's see, what is this here? It's a rectangle. I'm going to transform this to the shape, wireframes. Okay, then I'm going to open up the inspector. Let's make this, I got to select it. Left aligned. And, okay, so our inspector has, let's make a list here, has all the wireframes for our project. I'm just going to do it like this. Okay, and then this is usually slightly darker. We have an icon here to show the different views. So let me just flesh this out real quick so it looks real. Okay, so we have, all right, now we have these, there's a couple possibilities here. So we can have, as you see here, there's this alternate versions drop down menu. So let's just see if we have a branch. This is like a branch icon, kind of like this. We could have another icon next to this. I think that it makes sense for this to be on right next to the word wireframe because it's a drop down. I'm going to first propose that we do it this way. I'm going to first propose that double click on this Alright, I'm going to propose this as option 1. And then I just want to do a second option here. So this is option 1. Panel and from menu. So we have two different ways. You can do view, jump to wireframe, which opens the the dialog, or you could do double click on this wireframes heading, and then I'm gonna do an alternate idea. I'm gonna propose that for now. So let's just do this icon, and then I'm gonna use the page, this page drop down. This is enough for now. I think we need to discuss it now. So after that last round of iterations, I came back here and looked at the story again, and really the simplest implementation is the one that was just to make a filter appear here. So I'm going to do that one now. The idea would be that you would click an icon somewhere, and then you would just have an input that is available to filter the list. So you click here, a filter would open, and I think what I wanted to do here is just have the filter appear in place of the panel heading. So I was thinking we would just replace the whole box here. Okay, so this is all we had, and then we had a way to dismiss this. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this over. So okay, let's make this a little bit more real. So I'm gonna put a bunch of items in here, just to make it look a little bit more real. If they type the word company here, then their wireframes would filter down to this list, and then I think I would just remove the hierarchy, because where we have nested or indented list items, just because you're filtering this, and then it would be odd to show a page if the parent name was not showing. In this case, it makes sense because company is also there. But let's see. Okay, so if we selected copy policies, then we would jump to this copy policies page. Editor changes to selected item, and filter is hidden. This could actually be a filter icon now that I think about it. So this could be, let's see, filter, something like that. All right, so I think this one is actually a little bit more clear. I explored a couple different ideas. I wanted to do this HUD one just because there's this case where you don't have the navigator in view, and I don't know how the simpler one is the navigator option, but I wanted to do this other one just so we have a couple options to look at. Okay, so Marco and I did a review of the wireframes, and then I did another iteration as we were talking, and we consolidated the two ideas. We decided to go with the HUD idea rather than having the search box show in place in the navigator, this sidebar panel, because it's a little bit more flexible and you want to be able to search for resources whether the navigator panel is showing or not. So with this idea, you can bring up the jump to resource HUD by clicking the icon or using the menu or shortcut. And the story is that this jump to resource feature is supposed to allow you to jump to wireframes primarily, but then also symbols and assets in your project. So I changed the heading to jump to resource, and then I did a little bit of notes. I put some notes in the side here so that this should function so that the results prioritized around whatever navigator is or whatever view you're looking at. So if you're looking at wireframes, then wireframes will be at the top of your results list. If you're looking at symbols, the symbols would be at the top of the list. And then other resources would show below, and there would be some sort of indicator of what kind of resource that is. Yeah, and that's it. So the behaviors are the same. So, you just, as you select an item to jump to, the HUD closes, and then the editor displays that, that page or that resource. So if I was on the home page here, I invoked the HUD, and then the selected this company policies, the editor then changes to show this company policies page. So that was a good review. We had the sort of the main interactions figured out, and we just kind of talked through it, walked through it together, and then decided what we liked and didn't like, and then talked through the reasons why one of these types of ideas was probably better than the other. And this is where we're going to end up, and then we're going to discuss this and probably a little bit broader with a couple more people on the team, and then hopefully get to work on this. Thanks for sticking around to watch it. See you next time.